didn't read Spanish. Today we're talking about things that we like, gustar, with verbs and nouns. I like playing cards. Do you like playing cards? Interesting. So me and my brother like similar things. You're gonna hear me say it and you're gonna hear him say it. I like to call him Backwards Bob because he's a little creepy and does things backwards. You'll see why in a second. For example, I like baseball.
Baseball pleases me.
I like cats.
Cats please me.
I like running.
Running pleases me.
I love ice cream.
Ice cream pleases me.
And I like books.
Books please me.
How interesting. Now I'm going to have Bob tell you why his idea of saying things backwards actually works really well in Spanish.
In Spanish, when you want to say that you like something, it is better to think of pleases me. Here is why. When you make a sentence, this is how you will make it in Spanish. Something pleases. Then over here, you will say who it is pleasing to.
Here's why it's helpful to think backwards when you're saying that you like something in Spanish. In English, here we have two different verbs, like and please. If we say, I like sports, the subject is I. Who is doing the liking? I am doing the liking. On the other hand, with pleases, when we use this verb, the thing that I like is actually doing the pleasing. So, I like sports, I am the subject. Sports please me, sports are the subject. In Spanish, the only verb for to like that you can use functions like this sentence. So, you can't say I like this way, you have to say something pleases me. So think back to my brother's name. What was his name? Backwards Bob. So if we're gonna do things backwards in Spanish, here's how we're gonna make that sentence. We're gonna start from the right-hand side and move to the left. The first thing I need to know is what the subject of the sentence is, just like any other sentence in Spanish. So when we're saying that something pleases us or we like something in Spanish, the subject comes at the end. Our subject is sports. Next, I have the subject, so I'm going to keep on going backwards here. And I have my verb. So here I'm going to put my verb. And I put both of these in the same color to show you something. Just like any other sentence, we need to conjugate the verb according to the subject. So if our verb is gustar, and we're talking about los deportes is plural. So when I look at that subject, los deportes, this is plural. So I'm going to go to my gustar conjugation chart here, and I'm going to look at plural things, so I'm only looking at the right. Am I the sports? No. Are they the sports, or is it the sports? Yes. So I'm going to use this conjugation, the plural third person of gustar, gustan. So we have the first part of our sentence, los deportes gustan. Now we need somebody who likes sports. So let's take a look at the other side of the sentence. Welcome to the other side of the sentence. One thing I want you to keep in mind, what you see on one side does not impact what you see on the other side at all. So to show you this, we're going to create the Great Wall of Liking. Well, we need first an indirect object. Boom. Here's where we're going to put our indirect object. So who likes sports or who are sports pleasing to? Let's say me. So the indirect object for me is me. Now check this out. We're going to keep going backwards. So we went from subject to verb. Now we're going to go from indirect object to prepositional phrase. Bam! Prepositional phrase. So the prepositional phrase for me is a mí. So altogether our sentence is a mí me gustan los deportes. That's how you conjugate a verb using gustar in Spanish. Let's do one more and let's make it singular. So our singular thing is ice cream. I want to say that ice cream pleases you. I know that you like ice cream. Here's our subject.
Oh no.
So now let's take a look at our gustar conjugations. There they are. So I'm going to look and say, well, this is one thing. I'm looking at the one thing side of my 6-square conjugation table. And am I ice cream? No. Are you ice cream? No. Is it ice cream? Yes. So I'm going to use gusta. Why am I not using gustan? Because it's one thing. It's not more than one thing. So we have gusta. Now we're going to cross the great wall of liking. And let's put the first part of our sentence. So who is ice cream pleasing to? Who likes ice cream? I know that you like ice cream. So I'm thinking about my indirect object. Let's see. To me, it's me. To you, it's te. So I'm going to say te. And working backwards again, I'm going to think about the prepositional phrase. So the prepositional phrase of te is a ti. A ti te gusta helado. So we've talked about nouns. Now let's talk about verbs. I like running, or I like to run. Doesn't matter which way you say it. You can use the gerund running or the infinitive run. We're going to put the infinitive as our subject. All right, so now when we're thinking about how we're going to conjugate this, let's go back to our gustar table. Is correr singular or plural? Well, we're going to call it singular because it's definitely not a noun. And if we're looking at where we would put that, let's say it's one thing, it's not me, it's not you. So we're going to use the third person singular for correr. So that gives us gusta. Who is running pleasing to? Let's just come up with a person. So let's say Louis likes running, or running pleases Louis. So here, prepositional phrase, indirect object. For indirect object, we have one person, and it's not me, it's not you. So the indirect object for that would be le. Now the prepositional phrase for somebody else, a third person, is a él, a ella, or a usted. So we can write this as a él le gusta correr. But this loses a piece of information that we have, the person's name. So let's take out él. And now we're just going to put in his name. So we have a Luis le gusta correr. Be careful. Here's where Spanish is super different. In English, we would just say running pleases Louis, or Louis likes to run. But in Spanish, we have this a here. It's a really common mistake to take off that a. But in Spanish, you need it. You can think of it as a personal a. So to whom is this pleasing? It is pleasing to Louis. Or you can just remember prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase always has to start with a preposition. So if we have anybody's name, we always need that a there. Wow, you're really that lazy where you don't want to write the prepositional phrase. Well, number one, it's never wrong to include it. What this does is it just clarifies for the person that you're talking to who you're talking about. So if you already know who you're talking about, for example, me, I know that I am me, and if I'm talking with somebody, they're going to know that I'm talking about me. If I say I like something or something pleases me, there's no doubt as to who I'm talking about. So if you have a me, you don't really need it. It's not required. Same thing with te. If I'm having a conversation with you and I know that I'm talking to you, then there's no doubt in my mind who this person is. There's only one person it can be. So we can take out that one too. Danger, danger, danger. If I know who I'm talking about, if in a previous sentence I brought up a person, so Roberto es un alumno muy simpático, es muy alto y le gusta correr. I don't need this because it's clear to whom I'm saying that running is pleasing. So in that case, I could take out that I or that I. But if I didn't know who I was talking about, if I just came up to you in the street and I said, she likes backgammon, you would know who I was talking about. You asked me, who are you talking about? That's a case where I would need that prepositional phrase. So I need it to introduce the person that I'm going to talk about if there's no context to figure out who that person is.